Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been feeling like your brand needs a little love, but you're not quite sure where to start, I have just the tool you need. The Standout Brand Audit Bot is an AI-powered guided audit that shows you exactly what's working, what's not, and how to strengthen your brand using my proven Standout brand system. In 10 minutes or less, you'll walk away with clear next steps to move your brand forward with purpose. It's completely free. Just head to the show notes to grab the link and get started. If you've been dying to get off the content hamster wheel, you're going to love today's episode. I'm sitting down with content writer and self-proclaimed writing wingman, Herra, to talk about one of the biggest traps that business owners fall into, creating more and more and more content with nothing to show for it. Because here's the thing, posting 5 times a week or publishing 24 blog posts in a year isn't going to get you very far if it's not backed by strategy. Dana's breaking down what actually useful content looks like, why consistency alone won't grow your business, and how to create a simple, sustainable content strategy that moves people towards working with you without burning yourself out. We're also going to get into when it makes sense to bring in outside support for your content and why doing everything yourself is maybe not the badge of honor that we've all made it out to be. If your content has been feeling random, scattered, overwhelming, or just plain ineffective, this conversation is going to be really helpful for you. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of 2, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Six Figure Brand. I have Dana here with us today. Dana is a self-proclaimed writing wingman, which basically means that she helps you write content and tell your stories in a way that helps you sell and grow your business. So Dana, thanks so much for being here. Give us your 30-second intro. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Morgan. Yeah, my favorite people are the ones who say, I hate to write, or I tried and it took me forever and it didn't even sound like me. Those are my people because I got you. The way that I work with my clients is we just get on a call like you and I are right now, and we just talk. And I record it just for myself. And based on that call, I create a month's worth of content for them. And it sounds like them. It's in their voice. It's their ideas. You know, it's not ChatGPT's ideas of what's trending right now. It's your actual ideas and your actual voice, but you don't have to write any of it. So it could be articles, emails, social media posts, whatever. But it really does build your brand, because then when somebody gets on a call with you, you sound like the same person that they read on LinkedIn or in their email inbox.
Yeah, I love that. And I think most of our listeners are probably in the, oh my gosh, I hate to write camp. So we're in good company. And I think the other thing for me personally is that, like, sometimes I don't mind writing, but I always just am like not sure if I'm doing it right or if it's good or whatever. But I can word vomit a story to you, and then your job is to go make it sound good and convert and do all the things. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's the other part of it.
Yes, for sure. And that's also, just for listeners, can you give us like a really short answer to the question, what is the difference between copy and content? Because we're talking about content today, and I think if you're not a writer, it's really easy to conflate the two of those and like not really understand which one's which and what the purpose of each.
Content helps you choose, copy helps you buy. So content is how you build a relationship with your audience, and they get to know you and they think of you as the person who talks about X. And copy is when they've decided, okay, I do want to buy productivity software. Which one am I going to choose? Copy is the thing that is going to help them choose which one they actually go with. So copy is the one that actually makes the sale. Content is what builds that know, like, and trust that comes before the sale.
I love that you said the know, like, trust. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. So yeah, my kind of like how I look at it, or my rule or whatever, is copy is the sales page. Content is the thing that drives you to the sales page, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's the email, it's the LinkedIn post, it's the blog post or article that gets you to actually get to that point where you're ready to buy.
Yeah. And so I think for a lot of us, we feel like we're creating a ton of content and it's not really doing anything for us and it makes us want to quit, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that you and I have chatted about is that where people are really missing a piece is the goal setting part of content, right? When it comes to content, most business owners are either setting the wrong goals or more likely not setting goals at all. So can you tell us, what does an actually useful content goal look like? Like, how should those goals kind of connect back to our business goals? And how does that help us actually make our content work for us?
Yeah. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they make the content itself the goal, and it's not. Like, your goal is not to publish 24 blog posts this year. That might sound like a goal. It's got a number in it. It's got a tactic. But that's not going to drive your business forward. That's not going to do anything for your business, just writing 24 blog posts. The goal is, what are your business goals? Maybe it's like, my goal is to close 6 more clients for my consulting. Okay, how are we going to do that? Content is one piece of that. Okay, well, one way I'm going to do that is I'm going to drive more traffic to the landing page. And I'm going to do that by writing a blog post about a question that comes up a lot that I solve in my consulting that's going to drive to the landing page. The content itself shouldn't be the goal. It's easy to fall into that trap because we're trying to be consistent, right? It comes from a good place. I'm trying to build my reputation. I'm trying to build my brand. So I would need to be consistent. And that's great. But there needs to be a point behind the content that you're making. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people where they say, well, I tried content marketing and it doesn't work. And when I say, okay, well, what was it supposed to do that it didn't do? They're not sure. Like, well, it didn't grow my business. Well, how are you using it? It's like, you don't go to the store and buy a hammer and bring it home and be like, okay, why is this wall not built yet? I bought the hammer. I did the thing. It's like, no, you have to use it, and you have to use it correctly. You have to use it in the appropriate way to get the outcome that you want.
Yeah, totally. And I think the consistency trap is so tough, right? Because that's how I used to and sometimes still do approach content. Oh, I have to do 5 Instagram posts a week and 1 email every week and this many LinkedIn posts and blah, 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 blah. And as long as I check that box, then my business will grow. And it never does. Exactly like you said, I get to like the end of my month or 3 months that I said I'm going to be consistent for. And I'm like, okay, where are all the clients? And while I think being consistent is important, I'll use fitness as a really like simple example of this. If you are trying to run a marathon and you're really consistent with your training, but on your training runs, you're only running 1 mile, you're never going to be able to run a marathon. Like, yes, you're consistent, but you're consistently doing the wrong thing. So sort of similar to the whole practice makes perfect trope. Like, yes, it does, but not if you're practicing the wrong way.
Yeah,
so I think that's kind of what you're getting at here. And it is frustrating when we're like, I'm being consistent. I'm doing the thing. My content calendar is full and I'm putting out all this content and it's not working. But like you said, it's because the content isn't the goal, right? So maybe instead of my goal is to publish 24 blog posts in a year, it's my goal is to get 100 clicks to my website from my content in a year or whatever. That's probably like a pretty small goal, but just for something tangible that maybe that's what we should be looking at instead.
Yeah, exactly. The content is a way to get to the goal. It's not the goal itself. And yes, 2 blog posts a month is a good cadence, and 24 blog posts a year could be a good metric for you. Or maybe it's not. It depends on you. It depends on your audience. It depends on what you're putting in those blog posts. It depends on how you're distributing those blog posts and letting people know about them. There's a lot of moving parts here. So yeah, I get how frustrating it is when you feel like you're checking all the boxes and you're not seeing results, but you're absolutely right. It's because you're checking the wrong boxes.
Yeah, for sure. So can you walk us through like kind of a sample of what a content strategy that actually would move the needle in our business or move us toward our goals that is like simple and sustainable? Because I think that's the other thing. We think, okay, content means I need to be in all these 85 different places at once and like writing new content for everything all the time. And then it becomes a full-time job. And I'm over here like, hi, actually, I wanted to be a designer. What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you're thinking about your content strategy, this goes for all marketing strategies, by the way. You start with the audience because they're the people you're trying to convert. So what do you want them to do? And what do they need to know, feel, and believe in order to do that? Those are the big questions. And then from there, you can figure out, okay, they need to know that we offer X, Y, and Z. Okay, how do we tell them that? Is a large portion of our audience on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Where are they hanging out, getting information? Because people are everywhere. Like, everybody's everywhere. You don't need to be like, oh, I hate LinkedIn, but that's where my audience is. If you hate it, don't do it. That's a big thing for me as far as sustainability goes. Don't do things you hate. Find an alternative, because there's always alternatives. There's so many ways to reach people these days. And that sweet spot is, this is where your audience is. This is where your message makes sense. And this is where you don't mind being and hanging out. I don't do Instagram. There are people who do what I do, who have great success on Instagram, but I don't like it. It just stresses me out. It doesn't bring me any joy. So I just opt not to do that. I hang out on LinkedIn. That's my sweet spot. I've worked with people where they're like, oh, as long as I don't have to post to LinkedIn. Okay, fine. If you really feel that way about it, then don't. Because if you hate it, you're not going to do it well. And it's not going to work for you. And you're probably not going to be consistent. So yeah, start with your audience. Figure out where that sweet spot is where you don't mind creating content. And then as far as sustainability goes, most of the channels these days, you don't have to be in all of them, and you don't have to be in all of them all of the time. I mean, it used to be really exhausting. There was, in the heights of social media marketing, it was, well, you need to be on 4 different social media channels. And if you're doing Twitter, you need to post 12 times a day. All right, those things really don't apply any longer because of algorithms. That was back when you would show up in the feed just when you post. And now, thanks to the algorithms, they're showing people what the user wants to see or what the user has indicated they want to see. So you don't need to be posting 1 billion times a day. And you certainly don't need to be everywhere. I like to tell people, especially if you are doing this on your own, if you are a solopreneur and you are trying to run the business and to do your thing, and also wear a bookkeeper hat and wear a marketer hat and do all the other things too, start with one channel that you really want to go all in, and maybe 2. And that's one social media and one, maybe it's email or Substack or something like that. And that's it. Limit yourself to those. And when you get to where you are comfortable and you're seeing some traction and you feel like you're doing pretty well at them, then maybe you can add 1 more. And if you want to add 2 more, you need to hire somebody.
Is your brand feeling a little off? Like your visuals, messaging, and your overall vibe just are not lining up with where your business is headed? You probably don't need another pretty logo. You actually need a solid strategy behind your brand. That's exactly what we'll build together inside the Standout Brand Strategy session, a one-on-one deep dive into your brand foundation so that you can finally show up with clarity, consistency, and confidence. And if you're thinking about working with Spect & Co. on branding or web design, this is your first step for every single project that we do together. Clients who have gone through this process have tripled their audience size, doubled their revenue, and raised their rates by 30% or more. Use the link in the show notes to book your session, and don't forget to enter code SFBPOD at checkout to save $100. We're going to talk about hiring somebody here in a second. Yeah, I think that trying to be all the places at once is a really quick way to burn yourself out. And also, like you said, if you really hate a certain platform, you're not going to do it well. And you're going to show up with that begrudging energy. And even though we're on 2 different sides of the screen, potentially on the opposite ends of the country, that is still going to come through and people are going to know. And that's not how you want to portray yourself on the internet. Well, my piece of advice that I was given about platforms, particularly social media, but marketing platforms, was same thing. Choose 2. Choose one that you really love, and probably one that you can tolerate, but that you know is going to do well for your business. And that has worked well for me. And then as you said, I've gotten more comfortable. I've also got better at repurposing my content, which is a big one. Then I've been able to layer in a few more. And back to that, if you have some health goal example, right? It's going to feel impossible to be okay, I'm going to walk 2 miles every day and drink 100 ounces of water and eat all this protein and do yoga and this and that and blah, 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 if you try to start all of it at once. But if you do one and you master that, and then you add 1 more, and then you add 1 more, and all of a sudden you're going to say, I'm actually on 4 different platforms and I'm crushing it on all of them. Wow, that's crazy. Baby steps.
Baby steps
are important, 1 at a time. So let's talk about hiring somebody, though, because I think there's 2 things that you mentioned where it makes sense to hire somebody. One, and maybe you're going to disagree with me on this, I don't know. If there's a platform that you hate but that you know your clients are on and you want to take advantage of, even though you hate it. For me, that would be LinkedIn. Maybe that's a situation where you hire somebody to do that for you if you think that really is going to move the needle and it's something that you want to do from a business perspective, but don't want to do yourself, would be a scenario. Scenario 2 is I just don't have the time, or like you said, now we're up to adding in like 3, 4, 5 different platforms. That's just like not sustainable for you. And then scenario 3, I guess, would be you just hate writing. Back to the first thing you said whenever we started talking of, I just don't like writing. I don't want to do any of it. So obviously hiring support in your business, whether that's like a full-time team member or a contractor or whatever, is a big leap. For me, there was a lot of mindset stuff around that of like, oh, well, this is like a thing I have to keep up now, right? Like I have to bring in enough income on a consistent basis that I can sustain having this person supporting me. So that's, I think, one thing that is just, it's a thing for people. The other thing is that I think similar to how, like we said, you started your business to be a designer or to be a bookkeeper or whatever your thing is, not to wear all these other hats. One of the things that most of us are not taught how to do is work with contractors and work with team members and how to collaborate and be a leader and any of those things. So can you start by telling us how we would know if it's the right time and if we have the pieces in place to hire someone to support us with our content?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start with, I think you're absolutely right in saying that it's a mindset piece as much as anything else. I think people they don't have as much of an issue recognizing I don't have time to do this anymore. Like that bandwidth is easily measured, right? They can say, I just don't have time. It's a little harder to get your mind into the place of, I don't like to do this, because then you feel like it's just a personal feeling. Well, I should just suck it up, right? But it's not just that. It's about the best use of your time. If you're like, well, I don't like to write, but I've got the time to do it. Okay, great. But what else could you be doing with that time? It's a skill. I could change my own oil, but I don't. I would rather not. I would rather hire somebody to do that and spend my time doing something else. Tomorrow I'm taking my dog to the groomer. I could groom my own dog, but that is not the best use of 2 hours of my time. I would rather be on a sales call during that time while somebody else is doing it probably better and much easier. So there really is a sort of a switch into putting on that CEO mindset of you have a business. You need to make the best and most efficient and most effective use of your time. That is a limited resource.
I'm inclined to say this is a me thing, but I think that people listening are going to hear this and say, oh, me too. But I think that we, as women in particular, have like conditioned ourselves to think that if we're not killing ourselves for it, if we're not like suffering, if we're not working so hard, then we haven't earned our success, right? So to your point of like, I have the time or I could do it or whatever, it's sort of in our heads that like we don't deserve support like that because like you said, we are capable of doing it ourselves or we do have the time or whatever. And so instead of giving myself this gift of hiring somebody who can do the thing better for me, free up my time so I can do something that I'm good at and enjoy and ultimately probably move my business forward and make me more money, I should just like suffer through and do it myself because I can.
Yeah. So let's address that right off the bat. Like wherever you're at, you deserve to be happy in your work. You are already worthy. You already deserve it. Like full stop.
100%. And also, I had this conversation with somebody the other day and I was thinking, I wish I recorded it for my podcast so we can do it right now. You didn't start your business to be miserable. You probably started your business because you were miserable doing something else. So if you want to like hate your life while you're at your desk every day, just go back to a corporate job. Like that's easier than this.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are way easier ways to kill yourself at work than trying to run a business.
Yeah. So we've got the mindset. Now what else do we need to have in place to be ready to hire?
Before hiring. So I really think, especially today with how easy it is to work digitally, if you're in that scared kind of mindset, as you said about, well, I don't know, like that pressure of bringing in enough to support somebody else who's counting on me, start with contractors because they are not counting on you for their full paycheck and you're not supporting their family. Start with a contractor. That's one of the reasons why we are contractors, is because we don't want to rely on one person to like support our whole family. So that pressure is immediately out the window. Start with a contractor, and then when they are doing more and more work and their scope has grown, then you can start thinking, okay, maybe I need to bring somebody onto my team. So start there. And then the next natural question is, how do you choose a contractor,
Mm-hmm.
I would say start by getting clear on the outcome that you want, but don't get too hung up on the process because what you think you need might not be what you need. I had a sales call about 2 months ago, I guess, with someone who she was down for hiring marketing help. And she was excited going into this call. I was excited going into this call. And the more we talked, the more I realized I'm not the person to help you because you don't need marketing help. You need sales help. Your marketing is going great. You are bringing in leads and you're not closing any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get so hung up on the position you think you're hiring for. Instead, focus on the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
And as you're interviewing and talking to contractors, make that clear. This is what I want, because then a good and ethical person will be the one to tell you, okay, well, then you don't need me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you do need. And hopefully, if they've been around for a while, they have people in their network they can refer you to, and they can at least get you started down that path. Which the other thing I would say when interviewing contractors is ask about their process. They should have one. It should not be, well, it's whatever you need. That sounds great. It sounds very custom and very tailored. It's actually a big red flag. If they don't have a process, they may not be that experienced. They may not be that organized. And it becomes a little bit of like the blind leading the blind. They cannot get you to where you want to go if they don't have a process, if they haven't mapped the route already.
And if they haven't done it before. Like every guest I've had on my podcast, we've touched on the topic of ask when you're hiring for insert blank role, in your case, content support, ask them what results they've gotten for their clients. And if they are like, oh, I can't share that, or they get weird about it or whatever, that's also a big red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they've signed NDAs and it's a big thing, they can still share with you, well, this client who I can't tell you the name of grew their business by this much or got this much more traffic to their website or whatever it is. And if they can't give you any answer to that question, I would run the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying that only experts, 100% veteran people should get work, but it should be commensurate, right? If somebody is coming in and if they're asking veteran rates, they should have veteran experience to back it up. And some of that experience might be corporate. Maybe it wasn't clients, it was corporate, and they haven't been freelancing that long. Fine, they should still have a process and know what they're doing. That's the best way to learn. They've already learned on somebody else's dime what they're doing and how to do it. So yeah, maybe don't necessarily be put off if they're like, oh, I've been doing this for a year, until you let them finish and say, I spent 18 years in-house in corporate. The experience is there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, to the point of having a process or a system, I think some of us are well, I like to be loosey-goosey and I don't like to have a process and I want it to be custom to me. And yes, that's great, but there should still be some sort of a framework, right? So in my business, my process is we do a strategy session and then we do a mood board and then we do your logo and then on and on and on and on. Doesn't matter what business you are, what your goals are, who your client is, we're still going to follow that process, but we might tailor how we do each of those things to you. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. That they need to say, okay, here's step 1, 2, 3, and here's what your deliverables are going to be. They don't need to tell you every single little nitty gritty detail, but they should have some sort of proven process, I think, because back to your point of, oh, well, I bought the hammer, how come my house isn't built? You're going to them because they're the expert. If I'm working with you, right, Dana, and you say, okay, Morgan, how should I write your LinkedIn post? Or how would you like me to do your Instagram? Or how many times should we post to LinkedIn every month? Then I'm over here I thought that's what I was paying you for. And exactly like you said, it's the blind leading the blind. You're probably going to have wasted a bunch of money. And even more, unfortunately, you're probably going to really have turned yourself off from hiring support again in the future.
Right. Yeah, I actually had that happen once in my personal life. I was meeting with a financial advisor and I had some windfall money to invest. And he goes, okay, what do you want to do? If I knew that, I wouldn't have come here. I want you to advise me. What do you think I should do? And I will make the final decision, but what are my options? I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would encourage people not to shy away from hiring help, but also be smart about it. It's a big investment. And if you do it the right way, it can really help you grow your business. And like you said, free up time for you to do things that you would rather be doing. For example, not right now, but previously, we had house cleaners that came once a month and it was an investment. But also, if I sat at my desk and worked during the 3 hours that they were cleaning my house, I would make more money than what it cost me to pay them to clean my house. Also, I would be in a happier mood because somebody else cleaned my house. And that's so I think the same can be true for content. I know a lot of us cringe whenever it's time to like write our new content calendar, or I need to make an Instagram post or whatever. And there's a stage in your business where, like, yes, you really do need to be doing that yourself for financial reasons, but also for the purpose of, I think, just like finding your voice and figuring out who you are and who your client is and all of those things that I am really a big believer in, that you just have to take messy action and do the thing and figure it out as you go. But then eventually you will get to the point where then you get to call up Dana and say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Can you help me? And she will say yes. And I can do an even better job than you can.
Yep.
So can you tell us what working with somebody on our content looks like tangibly? What does your process look like if I say, hey, I need some help, let's get on a discovery call? Walk me through that.
Yep. So we start with outlining your goals. Who are you? Who is your audience? And what are we trying to do? Because that's what's going to determine what kind of content you need and should want. So that's always where we start, is who are we talking to and what are we trying to do? There is some brand discovery. So who are you? What does your voice sound like? What makes you unique? How are you different? What's your, there are different names for it. I say the one thing, right? The thing that you want to be known for. So all of that groundwork is laid first. And then the way that I work is, once we know what kind of content you need, and we've established the scope of the engagement, right? How many pieces, then the way it usually works, and I have tweaked it for different people at various times, but the standard process is we get on a Zoom call about once a month and we talk for about an hour. And it's an interview. It feels like a conversation, but I go into it like a journalist. I've researched a little bit into what's trending in your industry. What are people searching for? What's trending among your audience? What are they thinking about? What's on their minds? So it's an interview, and we just talk about your thoughts and ideas, what you want to focus on. Then from that, I will take that transcript and write the content pieces that you need, the articles, the emails, the social posts. When I first start with somebody, I spend a lot of time on voice. I think it's really important. I know how frustrating it is when you paid for a piece of content and you're like, yeah, but it doesn't sound right, so I need to rewrite it now, and I may as well have just done it myself. So I have several tools that I use to like numerically break down your voice. But do you use metaphors? Do you use analogies? How often do you use questions? Things like that. And then I will go back and read things that you've written that you are happy with or proud of. I will write them out by hand, so I really absorb your voice. I'll study the transcript, because one problem people have is that the way that they write is not the way that they talk. So I study the transcript of our call to figure out how you actually sound, your talking voice and not just your writing voice. All of that is going on behind the scenes. You don't have to be involved in any of it. But that's so that when I deliver the content to you, hopefully you read it and be like, yeah, that feels like me. That sounds like me. The ideas are there. The way that I work is in Google Docs, because they're easy to revise. You can just make comments and we'll make revisions. Usually we don't have very many revisions because we do that groundwork up front. We've already established what this is supposed to do, who this is supposed to appeal to, and how it's supposed to sound like you. And that feels like a lot up front. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if the reason you hired someone like me is because you're overwhelmed, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do all of these calls. I get it. But you do the groundwork up front and it saves you the rewrites and revisions later.
I remember when we first connected and I was asking you about your process and you were like, oh, we get on a call and we just chat for an hour. And I was like, man, that sounds amazing. I can't tell you how many people, in general, various services, but copy content people that I have worked with, or a lot that I've worked with, in conjunction on client projects, that I come to you because I feel like I'm bad at writing. I don't like it. I don't have time, whatever. And then you send me a questionnaire that's going to take me 2 hours of writing to fill out. And I'm kind of over here okay, well, the whole point is that I feel like I don't know how to accurately convey my thoughts written. So I think that's one, I'm sure, extremely effective. And two, really low effort way for me to just tell you all the stuff you want to know. And I'm sure also your journalism background, which we didn't really touch on, but Dana has an extensive background in journalism, really comes in handy there, because you know exactly what questions to ask and where to dig a little deeper. And
absolutely. Yeah. A lot of it is knowing when to say, okay, tell me more about that. Or what do you mean by this? Yeah, I have a client recently, she had her VA sit in on our call, which doesn't normally happen, but it was fine. In this case, she did. And so she was explaining to her VA, she was like, okay, so this is the part where Dana asked me questions and I just word vomit. And then she turns it into something. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen here. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
you
I'm a
just
big fan. I just launched a new AI tool to help people self-audit their brands. And I have an instruction in there that's like, feel free to hit the voice record and just word vomit. Like, you don't need to type this all out. And I think that people are more accurate and like more forthcoming when they're speaking, when they're writing, especially if they're not a super comfortable writer. So I love that method.
Yeah, and I love
Something
it because you have things in your head that you don't realize are in your head necessarily. One of my favorite things is when I give somebody their content and they're like, oh, I love that line or I love that phrase that is stated so well. And I'm like, yeah, those are your words. Like that is
You said that.
verbatim from our conversation. You said that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were writing, they never would have come up with it.
Yeah.
Because their head was just in a different space.
Yeah, totally. I mean, on the rare occasion that I'm like ahead on my content plan, I will write things or post things. And I've kind of gotten in the habit of I'll like word vomit something to ChatGPT and be like, okay, like make sense of this. And then I'll take it and like write my own version. And so I'll schedule something for like 2 weeks from now and then it will auto post and I'll read it and I'll be like, dang, Morgan, that was smart. So I did that. One of the things that you mentioned was some of the brand foundations and the voice and the one thing, right? So at Specs & Co, we call that your special something. It's the thing that makes you stand out, your differentiator, your unique value, whatever. What difference does it make to you, both in the speed at which you're able to work with somebody, but also how effective your work is when a client comes to you and has done some brand strategy work already versus when they have not?
I mean, it goes a lot faster. You can absolutely hit the ground running faster because some of those foundational things, I mean, I'm still going to do the voice work so that I can get it into my head. But when you already know what your special thing is, then that's like a whole exercise that we can kind of skip, right? Even when you've done some of the audience research first and you've really thought through who you're talking to and what's important to them. Again, we can just skip ahead in that initial engagement. And then the effectiveness, I'd say it's better, but it's faster. Because we can get effective content out faster because we know what we're doing. We know what we're aiming for. And there's nothing wrong with kind of testing the waters and figuring it out as we go. But if you do that brand work up front, you're going to get where you're going a lot faster.
Yeah. And I think when we're talking about investing, 5 figures a month in services like this, like you want results as quickly as possible, right? If I can come to you and in month 1, the content that you're creating for me is checking off those goals that we set, that's going to make me a lot more inclined to continue investing in this service versus if I come to you and I say, well, I don't really know exactly who my client is and I really don't know what makes me special. And then you are having to do the job of a brand strategist for the first 2 months and doing all this testing and tweaking. And then all of a sudden, let's say you've signed a 3-month engagement, you get to month 3 and the client says, I just don't feel like this is working for me. And then you're over here like, well, that's because we only just actually started doing the thing in earnest 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yep.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. That's actually, on that topic, that's another mistake a lot of people make with content. And I know it's frustrating, but it is quitting too soon. It's unfortunate, but it does take a couple of months to get good traction from any kind of organic marketing. If you need results fast, if you need it fast, you need that cash infusion, buy ads. Yeah. So it's go the paid route, because as we said back at the beginning of this conversation, content is where you're building that relationship with your audience. You're building that know, like, and trust. And people don't get to know, like, and trust you after reading one thing.
And I have an episode actually that's about playing the long game in business, why instant gratification is great, but it's also kind of useless. It makes us feel good for a second, and then what? And I think content is the ultimate long game, right? One, because depending what content you're writing, if it's a blog post, it lives for a long time. I'm still getting traffic to my website from a blog post that I wrote in 2018. But also because, yes, it does take longer to gain traction. You're probably going to work with Dana or someone like Dana for 3 to 6 months before you really start seeing that snowball effect. However, it's going to continue doing that for you for a long time into the future versus something like ads where you do get those quick wins, But as soon as you turn off the ads, it's over.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's once that snowball starts rolling, it gets big fast, right? But you do have that build-up time. And then you're absolutely right, is you can stop paying for the content. You can put your content on pause once you've got really good traction going. And it takes a while before it kind of starts to peter out. A business that I worked for, in 2018, I think. I did a check not that long ago. I don't remember why. I think I wanted to use them as a case study. And things that I wrote for them in 2018 are still ranking in first place. And they're ranking in the AI overviews, which didn't even exist at the time that I wrote those pieces.
Yep. Which is a huge testament to not just that it's worth it to invest in content, but it's worth it to invest in quality content from somebody that understands, yes, SEO and AI and all these things are like constantly evolving, but the basic principles are not. And if you can find somebody that like really gets that, then exactly like you're saying, your content will continue to work for you, even if you have to take a break or even if it becomes not a priority or whatever, versus those quick wins. Like we used ads for an example where like, yeah, it'll get you some traffic and some sales today, but what about next week or in 2 years from now? Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, this was such a fun conversation. Hopefully people are feeling a little less nervous about hiring for content support and also just starting to create content in a way that is more effective for them versus the hamster wheel of more, but it's still not doing anything for me. So I really appreciate you being here, Dana. Tell us how we can connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can find me online on my website, which is danaherra.com. I'm under my own name on LinkedIn. I hang out there way too much. So you can connect with me there. And you can also find me on Substack.
Awesome. Cool. And all of those links will be in the show notes. If you are looking for somebody to support you in your content and you want to just word vomit at them and have them make sense of it and create content that sells for you, I would highly encourage you to connect with Dana, and we will see you on next week's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Six Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.